Could you imagine being debt-free and being able to keep all of your paycheck? I understand number like water, phone bills and stuff like that, but can you imagine not having any of your paychecks go to debt, not having to pay that credit card bill, not having to pay those student loans, not having to pay your car loan? You just get to keep all that money and you get to watch it sit and grow in your account as you want. Or you'd be able to slap down cash to go on that vacation you've been wanting to go on for forever and don't need to add that to your credit card. Can you just imagine what your life would be like debt-free? Imagine what you could do with that money and start aiming to have that life, the life you want to have, so you can live financially free and do what you want and save how you want. So today I'm going to talk about debt repayment, more specifically 2 different methods that you can use when paying off your debt. Obviously there's more than just 2 debt repayment methods, but these are the 2 that I'm most knowledgeable on and I know are tried and true. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about. And when I'm talking about paying off your debts, this is not including your mortgage. This is at a later date. You pay off all the other debts first, worry about that one later. That's later. So the 2 I'm going to talk to you on are the debt snowball method and the debt avalanche method. What the debt snowball method is paying off your debts in the order of smallest to largest. And what the debt avalanche is paying it off in the order of highest interest to lowest interest. So first we'll talk about the debt snowball. So you would start by listing out all of your debts in the order of smallest to largest, and you would calculate how much money you've been paying towards them monthly. Even going back on the bank statements and seeing if you've been throwing extra, especially on the credit cards and you're making more than just the minimum payments on those, going back and seeing kind of averaging what you're paying. I would also plan out your budget and see what you can afford to pay extra, like how much money you have left over at the end of each pay period, or anywhere you know you can make cuts in your budget, like you've been eating out a lot, you've been going out drinking a lot. If you stop doing that and the money you spend on average with that, you add that to what you're paying towards the debts, you'll get things paid off faster. So you start with making lump sum payments on the smallest debt first, then every other debt is only getting the minimum payment. So when I say everything extra that you can throw, that's where you throw it to, is that first debt. You want to get it paid off faster than what it would have been paid off if you just make your normal payments. Once that one's paid off, you take all the money that you were making towards that first debt and you put it on that second debt and make payments towards that one until that one's paid off. And then you take all the money you're making towards your first and second debt and pay off your third debt. And you keep going in that order. And just like when you're building a snowman and you're rolling it in the snow, as you roll it, it grows bigger and bigger, and that's why it's called debt snowball, because as you keep going, your payments get bigger and bigger, so you're paying off faster and faster as you're going. The benefit of this one and why people choose this one is because you see results sooner. You notice your debt's getting paid off sooner, and it helps you stay focused, it helps you stay on track. For me personally, this is the one I'm doing, also because I am results oriented. So when I see stuff getting paid off, it brings a fire in me and it gives me momentum and wants me to keep going, but also in knowing that if an emergency happens somewhere down the line and I have debts 1, 2, 3, 4 paid off, but I still have debt 5 left, I have the excess money from debts 1, 2, 3, and 4 that I can put towards that emergency if my emergency fund that I have does not cover it, so that I'm in a better standpoint financially to cover things in case of an emergency. It's really to each your own as to what you do, but that's just my thinking behind it. But I do want to say you do need to make sure that you have an emergency fund in place before starting your debt repayment. I would say for the very minimum, make sure you have at least $1,000 of an emergency fund. So this is if something happens, like your hot water tank goes, like mine just did earlier this year, or your car breaks down and you need to pay to fix it, or something happens and you don't get as much pay as you normally do, that you know that you and your bills and such like that are covered and that you don't have to go into debt or add to your debt in order to pay these things off. And it is only for the cases of an emergency, which is why it's an emergency fund. You don't take that $1,000 and go and blow it on a new Mac. You know what I mean? So the second method is the debt avalanche method. This one is paying from highest interest to lowest interest. So you'd list all your debts out, the amount owing on your debts, the amount you're paying to each debt, and the amount of interest you are paying to each debt. Let's say you have a credit card at 21.99% interest, a car at 2.45% interest, etc., etc. So you would list it in the order of the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate, and you'll start by paying the highest interest one first. The idea behind this one is that you're spending the least amount of money possible on interest. So you aren't going to have as quick a results as you would on the debt snowball, but you are going to be paying a lot less in interest over time. So that's the perk of this one. So it's the same, kind of the same methodology as you would with the debt snowball. Throw everything excess that you can onto the highest interest one first, making only the minimum payments on the rest. And then when that one's paid off, you go down to the next and the next and the next and the next until you're debt free. I've also added a link in my bio to a debt repayment calculator that is handy to use. And you can go in there, put in each of your debts, the amount owing on your debts, the interest rate you're paying for each of your debts, and your monthly payments on the debt. And then you can add in there the excess money that you know you're going to be throwing each month onto those debts. It'll tell you an estimated completion date for paying off debts. It'll tell you approximately which month each debt is paid off. And it'll also tell you over the amount of time it's going to take you to pay off the debt, using each method, how much interest you're going to be paying. So that's definitely a good reference to do. Like I said, I'm going to be using the debt snowball method because when I used this calculator and calculated mine, doing both the debt snowball and the debt avalanche, it would actually take me the exact same amount of time. And like I said, I would just prefer if something happens, I have to pause my debt repayment, that I'm at a better standpoint financially, meaning less of my paychecks are going to be going towards the debt. Whereas if I did debt avalanche and I needed to stop midway, I still have the same number of debts. I still have the same amount of debt payments. So the same amount of my paycheck is still going to debts. And that's just not where I was at. But I do know people that are doing the debt avalanche because when they saw how much they'd be paying to interest, it really disgusted them. And they would rather be paying for the product or the item or whatever that they have than the interest that they are accumulating on the loan, which makes complete sense. But what I will say, during debt repayment, don't add to your debts. Don't add to your debts, don't create more debts. And when you have debts paid off, don't go and get new debts. It's kind of counteractive. So I hope that helped. I hope that makes sense. Message me, ask me any questions. Please visit the link in my bio to go to that debt repayment calculator so you can see which method is best for you.